Arizona real estate agents know the routine: an early alarm, a car full of signs, summer heat, and half the morning gone before the first buyer even arrives. Dustin Holindrake built open house helpers to take that job off agent plates. He reports that massive sign placement often brings 3 to 4 times more traffic. Today, we are asking how an overlooked chore became a 12-year Arizona business and why Dustin believes open houses should operate as a business model instead of a one-time event.
When Arizona businesses connect and elevate each other, our entire community thrives. Welcome to the Arizona Business Posse Radio Show. Hear honest conversations with Arizona's small business elite. Learn from their wins, their setbacks, and the lessons behind their success. Build stronger connections, find practical ideas, help Arizona business grow. And now your host, Michael the Travel Guy.
Before we meet today's Arizona business owner, I'm Michael the Travel Guy, and here's your travel tip. If you travel with a family of 5, do not price your vacation for 4 people and assume you will later add the 5th person. Room occupancy rules often turn a good-looking price into a much larger total. Many standard hotel and resort rooms sleep 4 people. Once you add that 5th traveler, the property might require a family suite, a larger room category, or 2 separate rooms. A room advertised at $450 a night for 4 people might look like the perfect fit, and 1 child and the available option might jump up to 2 rooms. The original price is not wrong. It was the price for the wrong size family. Start every search with the full travel party and each child's age and dates it traveled. A child at one property might be priced as an adult, where at the other property they might be priced as a child. Cruise lines also control cabin occupancy through passenger limits and safety rules. Extra floor space does not mean extra travelers allowed in the room. Next, ask 3 questions. First, does this room officially sleep every person in your family? Second, if you need 2 rooms, are connecting rooms guaranteed or only requested? Third, what is the total vacation price after the correct room setup is selected? Compare the full options side by side. 1 family suite might cost a little bit less than 2 rooms. 2 rooms might provide better sleep, privacy, and that extra bathroom everyone needs. A lower room rate does not help if the setup fails for your family. My advice is simple. Send your travel advisor the exact number of travelers, the children's ages, your dates, and your preferred sleeping arrangement before choosing any resort. Price the people first, then choose the room. You will avoid the family of 5 room trap and build the vacation around the people who are actually taking it. For help comparing family resorts, cruises, cabins, and the true total price, visit michaelthetravelguy.com. Now, let's meet today's Arizona business owner. Hello, Arizona. Welcome to the Arizona Business Posse on the Bull 1340 AM, 99.1 FM. I'm Michael Salazar, Michael the Travel Guy. Every week, we connect you with Arizona business owners, cultivate trust through their stories, and help take you on their adventure. Today, my guest is Dustin Holindrake, realtor and founder of Open House Helpers. Dustin has worked in the Arizona real estate since 2009 and started Open House Helpers in 2014. His company helps real estate agents save time, bring more visitors to open houses through high-volume sign placements, online promotions, and live trainings. Dustin, welcome to the Posse.
Welcome to the Posse.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, my friend. So tell us, we're going to get all into your signs and what Open House Helpers do, but why don't we start and tell me about your story in the real estate business?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to be here and happy to bring my story. And honestly, I feel like my story getting into this has motivated some people, or has not trying to sound like I'm all that, but it's helped some people with their careers, and that's why I'm here, So I got started in real estate in 2009. If you remember 2009, that's when most realtors were getting out of the business. And me, with my superb timing, I decided that was the time to get in. And so I did that, but that was after I decided to get in because I injured my knee, and prior to being in the real estate industry, I was actually in a completely different world, which was construction. I was a commercial electrician for a lot of years. I was a journeyman electrician. I was also an HVAC tech with my dad's company. He owned a company called Old West Mechanical, and I would every summer I would go work with him and help him as he was getting a little older. He was having a harder time with the job, and he was a one man show except for the summers when we were busy. So I had to go help him, and yeah, in 2007, I had a knee injury that put me on my butt for, actually, no, it'd be 2008. I'm sorry. I had a knee injury that put me on my butt for a long time. I had a botched surgery around the same time. Unfortunately, my little sister passed away, and it was a really tough time. We lost our house to foreclosure when I was out of work due to the knee injury, and we sort of lost everything. And so I figured at that time, I was like, I've got nothing left to lose, and I've always had this dream. I wouldn't even say always. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad a couple of years prior, and I got sort of inspired to start thinking differently about money and life and what I wanted out of it. And so when I went through that and lost everything, that's when I decided, got nothing left to lose. Might as well jump in with both feet, and I did that. And so in '09, I got my license. I started with a company called Weichert Realtors out in Gold Canyon, and I went with them because we worked with them. My dad's AC company knew a lot of agents there, and they sent us a lot of business. And so it seemed like a natural place to end up, was a place where we got a lot of AC business from. And so went there, and I sat down with my broker as soon as I got my license to start, putting together a game plan. And the first thing he told me was that I should focus on my sphere of influence. And I had kind of a moment where I realized that that wasn't going to be a good fit for me because, to be honest, I grew up sort of on the wrong side of the tracks. I hung out with a group of people that Mesa police considered to be a street gang. I got into some trouble. I hung out with people who weren't the best people. And so when he told me that I should focus on my sphere of influence, I had a come to Jesus moment that that's not going to be a good fit unless I can get paid to sell prison cells. I didn't see myself making a living in real estate, focusing on my sphere, at least not at the time. And so I decided they had a really good open house program in their office. They had tons and tons of signs. They had helium tanks for balloons, sign-in sheets. They had someone in the office who would help you prepare. It was a good system. And so I decided that that was where I was going to cut my teeth in the business, was setting up open houses. And so I started out doing a couple a week, and every single time I'm out there, putting up signs myself, taking them down, doing the whole gamut, sweating my butt off. A lot of times back then we were holding bank owned homes open. It was a very depressed market, so a lot of times nobody would even show up. I mean, everything that embarrassing you can think about that can happen in an open house or stupid. I've done it. I've fallen asleep and been woken up by people. I've had to use the bathroom to find out the plumbing was off and had to shut the whole open house down. I've done everything stupid you can possibly do because I did such a large quantity of them. Because I've always been a believer that if you want to get good at something, you have to first be willing to suck at it, and you have to have a high tolerance for sucking at it, and you have to do it over and over and over and learn a little bit every single time and get better. And so that's what I did. And then doing an open house, I sat with a lender. A woman came through who was super impressed with the fact that I had the thought process to bring a lender with me. She thought that was really impressive, and so she decided to let me list her house up in the mining camp area of Apache Junction. I don't know if you know the mining camp area. It's right at the base of Flatiron. It's one of the most beautiful communities, amazing views. For me, I was big time now, because keep in mind, this is 2009, maybe 2010, and all of a sudden I've got a $650,000 listing, which back then that was like having a $2 million listing now,
Yeah.
probably. And so,
Hmm.
so I went to work doing what I always did, and that was holding a lot of open houses. But being in the mining camp, it's so far off the beaten trail. And so I realized that if I was going to get anybody to show up to an open house, the first couple didn't go anywhere. I realized if I was going to get anyone to show up to this open house, I was going to have to put out way more signs leading all the way from downtown Apache Junction all the way up that Highway 88. Every, I don't know, quarter mile, I had another, maybe less than that, another sign with a balloon, another sign. I actually had two other agents follow me and help me set it up. I paid them to help me because these were the big signs you had to open up and fold. And so you can only fit somebody in a car. But we'd put out a ton of signs. And then I sat there at that open house and I was sweating my butt off. It was not a good first impression. But I sat at that open house and all of a sudden, the couple I'd held prior had one or two people. All of a sudden, this open house just hit. Just we must have had, I don't know, 15, 20 groups of people come through. People coming back from the lakes, people headed to the lakes was our main one. And we just had a ton of traffic. And I had this light bulb go off in my head that, and I know this is shocking. This is shocking information, but I had this light bulb moment where I was like, wow, it's almost like the more effort I put into this, the more result I get. That's so bizarre. Can you believe it? Right. So that really started something in me. And then not too long after that, I listened to an interview. Back then, we used to get CDs in our company inbox that had like interviews with real estate agents. We didn't have podcasts, and YouTube was sort of as even in its infancy, really. And so that was our resources. We got this monthly CD, and there was a guy named Brett Gove, I believe his name is, in California, and he talked about his open house system and how he was able to generate an entire business around this. And I started thinking, there's something here. And so for the next couple of years, that's what I did. As I just got to work, just going bigger and bigger and bigger with these open houses, putting out more signs, more spectacle. I mean, there was a point we had wacky waving arm inflatable tube man in the front patio. We had an inflatable gorilla that we put. We did we just did a lot of things just trying to drive people and started building a name for myself. And so and then in early 2014, um my wife had just quit working because we had our third child. My daughter Ashley was born, and I told my wife she could be a stay-at-home mom. That's what she always wanted. I was doing well enough in real estate that I can have handle the whole family. And so she stayed home. And then a few months later, I started this company, Open House Helpers, sort of by accident because I actually had the idea one night when I hit I used to put these signs up in the middle of the night so I wouldn't be so sweaty. And then I'd start the open house the next morning at 9 a.m. And in the middle of the night, I managed to hit my thumb with a hammer, hammering one of the stakes in, and it hurt like hell. And I threw my hammer in the Circle K parking lot, and I'm screaming at God, and I'm just angry. And I'm like, there needs to be a company that does this. And then it just sort of hit me that, well, why don't
Boom.
you start it? Right. Like, why don't I be that guy? And so a friend of mine had just recently gone through an issue at work where he was potentially going to lose his CDL because he damaged his eye and his vision was affected. And so I tried to get him involved and see if we can start it and I could be a silent partner and he can run it, trying to help him keep his family afloat. And it turned out within a few weeks, I realized that that guy, didn't belong owning a business. I mean, that guy is that he just didn't have it in him, right? So I decided I'm going to take this over, and I went to my poor wife after she had just had a baby and been a stay-at-home mom for a few months, and I said, "We need to take over this company, and we need to run this company." And so, actually, maybe a year after my daughter was born is when it was. So, and it just started that way, like I said, sort of by accident, and yeah, that's where it got going, but it started from my own model that I was able to prove through consistently doing it and upgrading it. Like everything we do is extremely systematic and extremely precise and intentional. The way we place our signs, the directions we place them, how we do our front yards, everything. It's all very strategic,
Yeah.
for my own model.
Perfect. So now you describe Open House Helpers as an original open house helper company. What existed in the market before you even started? What did it look like here, especially here in Arizona?
I mean, like I said, there was, yeah, like you nailed it. There was not a company like this in the world. At least if they were, they were impossible to find because we did extensive searches on Google. We just kind of looked at every possible thing. There was one company, one brokerage. It was honestly, I can't remember the name of the brokerage. I think it was maybe American All Star Realty or something. I think they were only working with foreclosures and bank owned properties, but they around the same time we got started, they were putting out a lot of signs, similar fashion, but not exactly. There was a few agents, but it was extremely rare and unheard of. And so when we started doing this, the company caught like fire. Like it went crazy really fast. And within the first 2 years, I mean, we were crushing it, absolutely crushing it, you know. And it was amazing because there's a point of pride when you invent something that's never existed. I've actually done that quite a few times now in my career where I've created things that no one's ever done before. It's something that I take a lot of pride in, really. Is just having, because it takes more than just a good idea. It takes the guts to execute it, you know, and it takes the ability to push past all the chicken littles in your life when you're saying, I want to do this thing, and they say no one's ever done that, and that sounds impossible, and you know that kind of stuff, and you just do it anyway. That's just kind of how I roll.
Sounds like a true entrepreneur there. And I
Yeah,
think we're all faced with
yeah.
that.
Entrepreneurship is you jump out of a plane and you build a parachute on the way down, right? That's what I
Exactly. That
always
is
look at it. Yeah.
exactly it right there. So you
Yep.
got
Yep.
12 years into this business. I'm sure you've got plenty of scars from this business. Can you tell me what the hardest stretch in your company's history was?
Yeah, definitely. So we were really real estate, because you keep in mind the whole time I've run this open house helpers, I've also been a full-time real estate agent. And for many of those years I was a team leader. And I've had teams as big as 9 agents, as small as two. Um, so managing that and open house helpers, my wife does all the operations. I work on sales, hiring, firing, marketing, strategic growth, things like that. You know what I mean? So I was able to make it work for a long time. And um, there was this thing that happened. You might have heard of it in 2020, right around March. We were actually at Disneyland when they closed Disneyland for COVID. And so we were there. We got a 3-day pass, and on day two, I've got pictures of those gates closed, and it was the most eerie thing I've ever been through. So when COVID came around, um, it within a matter of a couple weeks completely wiped us out. It wiped out me. It wiped me out in real estate. It wiped out my vacation rental, and it wiped out open house helpers like within just overnight almost. It was insane. We went from doing 30, 40 open house. I think mid 40s is the highest we got in one day, but we're doing 30 to 40 open houses, per day, to zero, just absolutely zero, because now all of a sudden everybody's afraid. Nobody wants anybody in their house. Nobody wants open houses. Nobody's allowing open houses, all the mandates that we went through. And we're all of a sudden just sitting here going from being on top of the world financially to watching everything just fall apart. And we went from being debt free with a large amount of money in the bank to high amount of debt and almost no money in the bank within a matter of maybe a year. It was a really awful time for us. And I actually made a Facebook post about this recently. That went on that the company was in a bad place for quite a few years. It wasn't like a quick thing that we turned around. It was we were in the toilet for a long time, and honestly, until just a few months ago. And it took me swallowing a really hard pill, um, to turn it around, Michael. And that was that I kept blaming COVID for my company falling apart. And I just kept that energy going for years. It's almost like I was enjoying this little pity party of what used to be. And it took a really good hard look in the mirror to say, the company's not in shambles because of COVID or because of the market. The company's in shambles because I was in shambles. You know, I went through a tough time, and it took a long time to sort of get through that. A lot of bumps and stuff on the road along the way. And now we're back in a place where we're rebuilding and we're excited again. And we are on a mission to bring it back to its original glory times 10, you
Yeah.
know?
One of the things that one of my mentors taught me is I have a little hourglass here on my desk. And when I'm upset and I'm frustrated, I flip that little hourglass over. As soon as it's, and I can say whatever I want, I can feel whatever I want. But as soon as that last grain goes through that hourglass, I got to shut the heck up and get back to business and do what I got to do. And it may sound really crazy and stupid, but that 60 seconds, it will change your life if you treat it the way it's supposed to be treated.
That's actually fantastic. I love that. I don't have an hourglass, but I do keep one of these little digital timers on my desk,
There you go.
for things like that. And so I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna remember that next time I'm having a moment. I'm just gonna set 60 seconds on here and just breathe or something.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
can say all the bad words you want to say, hate everyone you want to hate, but when that timer goes off, we got to
I
focus
like
on
it,
our
man.
family, grow our business, and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about the turning point. You said it was just literally like a couple months ago about
Yeah.
that you really had that turning point come around. What caused that?
Honestly, my mom passed away. Yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
and when she passed away, it boy, that kicked my butt. I've lost every member of my family now, so I'm gonna do my best to not get emotional here. But I lost my sister 18 years ago suddenly. Then I lost my dad 10, and my mom was all I had left as far as my immediate family growing up. And when I lost her, um, I took some time off, much needed time off from everything. Feeling the effects of it now, but which is fine. I can work my way out of this, no problem. But I don't know, it just sort of lit a fire under my butt. The time is short, and I can't just keep kicking the can down the road and deciding that someday I'm going to rebuild this. It's like, do it now. That's my 3-word mantra that I've been living by for the last couple of years. I learned that from a guy that I um, used to consider a mentor out of Texas. Um, do it now, do it now. It's just I can build to-do lists until the cows come home, but until I start actually checking some things off that list and building that momentum back up. But no, that's really sort of what happened is after taking so much time off, I had time to finally like reevaluate what I want out of life. Um, and like selling real estate's great. It is. And it's also really hard, and the market's really hard, and there's a lot of competition, and it's cutthroat. And it's like it's not the kind of thing you can just do forever, right? I don't know if I mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad earlier. I'm a huge fan of that book. That book was the beginning of descent for me. So I realized, there's the cash flow quadrant, right? ESBI, if you remember. So employee, that's what I was when I decided to get into real estate. I'd lost my job because of my injury. So I went into the S quadrant, which is real estate. That's self-employed. It's like being a dentist. You stop pulling teeth, you stop earning. Same thing with being a real estate agent or being a travel guy, like you understand. Like the minute you stop prospecting, the minute you stop booking, the minute you stop working, you're gonna fall. And that's the tidal wave I've been riding in this business for almost 18 years now, is that highs and lows and highs and lows and highs and lows. And what I realize is I'm always telling myself like, I need to start like some sort of a business. And that's like, wait a minute, dude, you own a business. Like start watering the grass instead of chasing the next thing. And so I want to get back that B quadrant. I want to build a baseline that I can eventually do anything I want in life. If I want to move somewhere, if I want to have some flexibility in life, that's the kind of business that's going to allow me to do that. And so that's what really hit me is, we don't know if we want to stay in Arizona forever. We've been here a long time. I love it here, but it's a big world and I want to see more of it. And I want to be able to have some sort of a foundation that I can take with me and expand and grow in a way that I can't do as a real estate salesperson. So that's really where it's at for me right now, is just that reevaluation of my life and my time and what I want moving forward.
Yeah, I have a book that I wrote about this exact thing, and it's coming out on Amazon in just a couple weeks, and I'll start promoting it
Really
then. But it's about
awesome.
my career choices. I've been in the restaurant business for 31 years, and I walked away from day-to-day operations after 30 years, and now I only do it part-time, but it was the only way I could see myself growing out of the shadow I was in. So I have a whole book coming out on that. It's gonna be on Amazon. It's gonna be a lot of things, but yeah, there's a lot that we can relate to, in our lives. Let's move on, and let's talk about your company and the services that are offered. Can you walk me through the service from the moment an agent places an order with you?
Yeah, and I like the fact that you premise it from that, because everything I've ever built, whether it be in real estate or this or anything else, that's always my focus, is what is the customer experience or what is the client experience, I've set a lot of standards in the company, and it's important to me that now, does that mean we hit, a 3-point jump shot every time? Of course not. We miss sometimes, we make mistakes sometimes. We do everything we can to correct it and make it the best possible experience. But honestly, I learned that like from the restaurant industry. I was in the restaurants when I was younger. I waited, I bartended, I learned almost everything I know about customer service, honestly, came from the restaurant industry. That's where I cut my teeth with
I think every
service.
business owner should work in the restaurant for a little bit.
Absolutely.
It
You
will
learn
open their eyes.
You learn so much about sales. You learn so much about humility and about grace. You learn how to accept people at their best or their worst, because sometimes people come in and they're terrible to you, and you have to learn how to say, I don't want to just assume the worst in that person. Maybe they're just having a bad day, and I'm
Exactly.
unfortunately I'm the punching bag right now. But you learn a lot going through restaurants, and so yeah, everything I've ever done is sort of been through that lens of the customer experience. And so in the beginning, it wasn't perfect because, we were low tech. We didn't have websites and systems. It was terrible. But after a couple of years, we got it. So now we've got a really great, ordering process. We always confirm the jobs with maps. We make sure that agents know exactly what they're getting. So when an agent places an order with us, they go on our website. Our bare minimum for sign placement is 25 signs. Uh, that we have a couple of competitors in town. I'm not here to talk smack about, well, one of them. Maybe I might talk smack about the other one, but not the main one, because we really like one of these companies because we actually help each other out when we need it, and we mastermind, and it's great. Because like when I started the business, being the first one ever, we got busy. And what happens is when you start a new company, especially a new industry, I saw this happen with Lister Assister. Lister Assister started that whole industry for real estate, photography, signpost, lockbox, all that. There was nothing like that until Lister Assister. And so I met with Chad, the owner, the original owner of that, and he helped me understand that I wasn't trying to create a company that was a cool factor, like something that was rare and cool. I was trying to create a new standard. He helped me see through that lens of we're redefining what the standard of an open house is, to where if someone's not putting this much effort into an open house, they're doing less than, not we're going above and beyond, right? That's what we've always been trying to do. And so we've always put everything through that, again, through that lens. But 25 signs is our minimum. And that's not including the signs that are in the front yard. Because in the front yard, we have another 4 signs, plus a stop sign, plus another sign for a time writer, so that there's a full system. But our competitors, that's their maximum, or even more than their maximum, that they will do. So there's a difference there. And you know, most of the other companies, they offer like 10 sign packages, and they might go to 15. Where we start at 25, we go to 50. We've done as many as 200 signs for one open house. And something to keep in mind with 200 signs, that's not spread out over 5 or 10 miles. We're talking within a mile or two of the house. There was like 8 major intersections that were fully flooded with signs. And we also have straight arrow signs in between the turn signs. The goal is, once you see my first sign, you'll keep seeing a sign until you get there. That's our goal with our signs. And our signs are yellow coroplast. So when the sun hits them, you can see them from a long ways away. Again, very intentional, right? We want them to
Yeah.
glow.
Let me ask
So
you,
it's,
who do
yeah,
do you own the signs, or does the agent that's buying them from you get to keep them?
we own the signs. So that's
Okay.
the cool thing for the agent experience is, traditionally an agent does an open house. They're filling their car full of signs and balloons and all these different things, whatever they're doing. And they're out parking and stopping and putting them up and enduring the heat, enduring traffic, running across busy intersections, trying to handle this. With our company, an agent places an order online, and then they show up to the house and it's just ready. Everything's done. And the only thing they have to do is, we have a sign that says, "Stop, we're not open yet." And I'll tell you the story behind that in just a second, but it says, "Stop, we're not open yet." And so the agent can go in and set up their tables, set up their displays, their snacks, whatever they're bringing. And then when they're ready, they just go outside and they turn the sign around and it says, "Come on in, we're open." The reason we decided to put that sign up, and we also decided to create time writers, is because in the beginning, we just did the signs, and our installers would be out doing 2, 3, maybe even 4 jobs in a day. It takes them several hours. So they would get started really early. So we had an open house in Ahwatukee one time. It didn't start until 10 o'clock, but my installers had the signs set up by about 7. But we didn't have any way of stopping traffic. We just hadn't even had the thought yet. And so the story goes that the sellers were waking up, getting their day started. They knew they had an open house in a couple of hours. They're sitting in their living room drinking coffee in their underwear, just hanging out. And somebody walks in their front door. Now, why their front door wasn't locked, I don't know. But somebody just walks in their front door for the open house, and they're just sitting there in their chonies like, "Oh my God." And the agent calls me just furious that we set him up so early. And I tried to explain, "I'm sorry, we have to set it up early for this reason and this and that." And then again, I swallowed the frog, or what you want to call it. I looked back and I said, "No, no, I got to stop trying to blame this on our circumstances and just own it and say, you're right, we need to improve. So that's when we decided to come up with the stop sign and the time rider. So there's no question whatsoever what time that open house starts and whether or not it's open or closed. You know what I mean? So I don't
That's
think
awesome.
anybody else does that either. So we think of little details like that, like all of the details that matter, you know?
Well, tell me about your route placement because you have like specific visibility, turns, neighborhood layouts. Tell me about how that all the psychology of all that works without giving away the
Sure.
secret sauce here, of course.
Well, I'm willing to give away the secret sauce because honestly, it's no one's replicating it anyway. But our my strategy really comes down to one thought. And the thought is that if you're driving 50 miles an hour down a road, and let's be honest, most drivers are sort of distracted or they're just focused. And then you're driving, and all of a sudden you see like one little open house sign. By the time you see it, it's probably too late to turn, at least safely. And that's why I think that's the number one thing. It's so simple, but it's so mesmerizing to me that so many agents will just put out one little sign on the corner, and then by the time people see it, it's too late, and most people are just going to say, "Well, I'll just skip it, whatever." With our signs, like we don't focus, we focus on the major intersections of an area somewhat, but the real magic to me is that first turn into a neighborhood off of a major street. That's where we really try and put the majority of the focus of the signs. You know, we'll have some guidance at intersections, but most cars, when they're at an intersection, they sort of already know which direction they're going. But if you can catch their attention when they're going down the major street in the direction they're going, it's a lot easier to get their attention and get them to turn. And so for one, instead of having that one turn sign on the corner that they're going to possibly miss, we have these bright yellow signs that every 25 to 30 feet they're spaced, and we'll have 5 or 6 of them. So you're talking, you know, 100 to 150 feet before that turn, they're going to start seeing those turn signs. And it gives them time to psychologically make the decision if they want to go check it out or not. The number of people who have reported back to us over the years of, hey, I've held this open house 5 times, and this is the first time using you guys, and I had 25 groups come through, where in the past I've had 3, right? It makes an enormous impact because it gives people the time they need to make the decision and do it in a safe way, in a safe manner. And on the backside of the straight arrow signs, we have a turnaround sign. So traffic coming the other direction still sees those signs. They see a turnaround arrow. So they're inclined to turn around as well, you know? And so yeah, that's, I mean, it's really just a matter of placing them in a way that gives people time to think. If I
Yeah,
had
it's
to
great
just summarize it
psychology.
in one sentence, you know?
Great psychology. Now, there's a
Yeah.
ton of realtors out there. Guys, if you're listening to this, if you're a real estate agent or if you know somebody, this is a perfect opportunity to save you time and make you money because these guys are handling everything for you. Let me ask you this. Local sign rules, how does that affect your strategy?
We've had some adventures with that. I'll give you a couple stories. So first of all, we found out that Avondale, they don't mess around. They do not allow more than 6 signs for an open house. And they actually enforce it through police. So one of my installers is in Avondale. Now this is like 2015. This is not long after we got started. Maybe it was even in 2014, something like this. It was in the beginning. My installer gets pulled over by a police officer as he is placing signs. And the officer says, we have a 6 sign maximum in this town, and you have 30 minutes to take these down. And if you don't, we are going to fine you $500 per sign over 6. We had 50 signs out. That was going to be an $11,500 fine. So we decided we're not going to install signs in Avondale anymore. But then there's other cities that challenged us that we decided to fight back. For example, Chandler used to be my biggest adversary. They have their sign enforcement department. Um, they were hell bent on going after us for a while. They really had a thorn in their paw based on they just didn't like my signs. And they would take them down, and we would go to the city and we would get our signs back and we would fight them. And then I got contacted out of nowhere by the Goldwater Institute, and they were actually representing Michael Pollock in a lawsuit. He had a lawsuit against the city of Chandler for the same reason. He didn't like their sign rules. You know, Michael Pollock, the big real estate guru, right? The
Michael Pollock
Donald
very
Trump
well.
of Phoenix, basically.
Mhm.
He's a real estate tycoon here locally. He owns a lot of commercial plazas, and he was getting a lot of grief from the city based on the signs. So he was in a lawsuit with the city of Chandler, and for whatever reason, they found out about me and they decided to invite me in to be a part of this. And so I started getting involved in that, and I started going to not city council, but the city of Chandler had these meetings for real estate agents discussing their laws, and I would show up and I would argue my case in front of all these real estate agents and try and win this. The premise that I was coming from was that if a political sign can be protected, then any sign that goes out should be protected. And that's actually the stance that the Goldwater Institute was trying to come from as well. It was a matter of different rules for different sign types, and so that was the way we're going. And the way I looked at it was either I win and my open house signs are going to be treated like any other type and they're going to have the freedom to be there, or they change the rules for political signs and we all win. And so that was my goal, as I was trying to be the guy who got the political signs to come down. But then out of nowhere, the lawsuit was settled and it was all over. And I was like, wait a minute, I was just getting warmed up. So nothing ever came of it, unfortunately. But we do have certain cities that make it more difficult. Scottsdale only allows one sign per turn. When you have 25 signs you're putting out and you can only have one sign per turn, that makes for major problems with sign placement there. There are certain communities like Las Sendas in Mesa. Las Sendas does not allow any open house signs, only one at the property. They don't allow any agents in the community to put open house signs anywhere. To me, that's just a big detriment to the seller. I think it's just disgusting. Our signs are up and down in 4 or 5 hours. It's not like they're out there all day. They're not junk removal signs that sit on the corner for 6 weeks or before, that
They're
kind of
not
stuff.
like the political signs that are still out on the streets right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who, lost in the primary, their signs are still out. And I'm just like, this is a reflection of character as far as I'm concerned. We try to be mindful of doing right by everybody. So yes, I understand that my signs are extremely effective for realtors. I also understand that means it's extremely ugly for the letter writing Lindas of the neighborhood who don't want to see it, But another big thing for me with open houses is that a busy open house is a safe open house. And there have been many instances in our industry where agents, especially female agents, have been assaulted or horrible things have happened to them at an open house that's really empty. And so I look at things like that very seriously, where somebody hating on me because of how ugly my signs are, I've got big shoulders. I'll take that beating if it means that this agent's going to have a more successful open house, this seller's going to have a better turnout, and there's going to be less odds for something bad to happen.
Absolutely.
But back to the city thing, yeah, that's still an ongoing thing.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening to the Arizona Business Posse on the Bull, AM 1340, FM 99.1. I am Michael Salazar, Michael the Travel Guy, and my guest is Dustin Holindrake, the founder of Open House Helpers. When we return, Dustin is going to diagnose a bad open house live and show us what most agents are missing before the first visitor even arrives.
Tacos, fajita, beans. These are our favorite things. Come and you'll see what we mean. Good food and service we bring. Ole!
Manuel's Mexican Restaurants, serving the Valley fine Mexican food since 1964. Families serving families at 8 convenient locations. Find your nearest Manuel's today at manuelsaz.com.
If you only get one vacation, don't leave it to 47 browser tabs and a stranger's online review.
Hello, Arizona. I'm Michael the Travel Guy.
From family cruises and Disney vacations to Mexico and Caribbean all-inclusive resorts, Michael helps you choose the right vacation for your family, your budget, and the memories you want to bring home.
I take time to learn how your family travels. Then I help you plan a trip from the first idea through the day you return home.
No guessing, no sorting through hundreds of confusing choices. You get a real travel advisor who knows your plans and stands ready when you need help. Before you book your next vacation, call Michael the Travel Guy at 888-857-6497.
That's 888-857-6497. Save my number now and call me for your next cruise, resort, theme park vacation, group trip, or family giveaway.
Michael the Travel Guy. Better vacations, perfectly planned.
Call 888-857-6497 or visit michaelthetravelguy.com and let's get out there. Welcome back to the Arizona Business Posse on the Bull. I am Michael Salazar, Michael the Travel Guy. Today I'm with Dustin Holindrake of Open House Helpers, a Gilbert-based company helping Arizona realtors attract more open house visitors through sign placement and promotions and training. Let's talk about your online promotions. When we left you before the break, we talked about the sign regulations, and you've been able to conquer that by creating an online visibility as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit. We're really wanting to do more with the online visibility. I mean, there's only so much you can do to drive traffic to an open house online because there's only so many. I mean, you know, there's only so many places that people are going to be looking, really, and social media being the number one thing, and so that's what we try and focus on. So we do have a package where we'll create an ad and we'll put an ad spend to it. The online thing is cool, but we're getting ready to also go into print services to where we will be printing door hangers and having those hung on the neighborhood in advance to try and get more neighbors to the open house, because we spend so much time trying to interrupt people's plans on a Saturday. They're on their way to a lunch meeting, they're on their way to their kid's soccer game, they're on their way to something. And we're interrupting them, trying to get them to come in and check out this open house. Meanwhile, there's 1,000 neighbors sitting there who have no idea that one street over, there's this big event happening. So that's where our focus is right now, is trying to get more of those people to show up.
Yeah, I have friends reaching out to me all the time. Hey, I know you've been looking for a house. This one in my neighborhood opened up just right down the street from me. We could be neighbors. So that's a great opportunity for them to be your Pied Pipers and get out there for you.
I've always been a belly to belly kind of a guy. I'm big into networking. I know you're the same. Honestly, Michael, I love what you're doing with this show because, I am a small business advocate. I am that before I am anything. Everything I do is about, let's connect more small businesses. Let's get belly to belly. Let's network. Let's meet the old fashioned way.
Well, you talk about belly to belly. That takes me over to your open house domination class that you teach. And you teach that to experienced agents and teaching them how to host their open house. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I teach it to new agents, experienced, everybody. And I don't teach it as often as I should. I'm trying to get back to about once a month. But honestly, it's the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can put all of the effort in the world into generating traffic to an open house. But if you can't convert, or if you don't know how to manage, imagine you're a single real estate agent sitting in an open house and all of a sudden you have 5 groups of people walking around. How do you manage that? How do you manage that in a way that's effective, not only to where, you're able to have good conversations and things like that, but you can actually turn that into closed business? The first thing I teach in my class always, though, is that the first question I always ask in my class is, why do we hold open houses? And I ask people to raise their hands and answer. And without fail, every single time agents raise their hands and they say to get buyer leads, to get seller leads, and everything's always about getting leads. And then I tell them a story about when I learned that is not the right way, because there are many open house classes out there available to agents, and they all share the same sort of tired, not good information, in my opinion. They don't teach anything close to what I teach. I go in way more depth, but I teach people, again, it comes back to the customer experience. What is it like to walk into my open house versus what's it like to walk into someone else's open house? It's not just a matter of they're impressed with the sign placement. What conversations am I having? How am I capturing their information? How am I following up with them? How am I treating them while they're there? And what's their tour experience like? Like, those are all the things that I like to dive into in that class. But the number one lesson I always teach after I get that answer, I tell a story, and I'll just summarize it very quickly. But I managed to get a listing in Morrison Ranch years and years ago when we first started the company. And it was because the people were so impressed with my sign placement, that they had to have me be their agent. So I did. And I went and listed their house, and it was a $700,000 house. Again, in 2014, that was $1.5 million now. And they were so impressed. And so I did this big open house on opening weekend, and I thought went really well. We had something like 35 groups come through that open house. It was extremely busy. I had a lender with me. We managed the whole thing well. After the open house, I get a call from the seller. I'm assuming she's calling to talk about how the open house went. And she did. But I told her everything I just told you. It was a great event. We had all this traffic. And she says, yeah, I want to cancel my listing agreement with you. And I was like, yeah, your reaction is exactly what I was like, what? I just told you, like, what are you talking about? And she said something I'll never forget in my whole career. She said, one of those 35 groups that came through the open house were some friends of mine. I sent them there to watch you, to essentially secret shop you, and to let me know how you handled it. She said, never once did they see you make any attempt to sell my home. What they saw was you make every attempt to gain new customers out of my home. I did not hire you to use my property as a lead generation tool for your business. And that hit me in the gut. Like that was the best lesson I ever had in this business, I think. That's what made me flip the whole script on everything. And I think is the most meaningful lesson that you can learn in the open house game is that no one hired you to use their property to generate leads. You are there to sell that property to every single person who walks in the door. That is our responsibility. That is our fiduciary duty to our clients. Okay. Now, does that mean it's going to be a good fit for everybody? Of course not. Okay. Make the attempt to do your job, sell them the property, get them excited about it. If it doesn't work out, then try and get the lead, but you don't start with that. And that's, to me, that was the biggest eye-opening thing for me, because once I started practicing that, my lead conversion skyrocketed. Because people now, why is that? It's not because some script I was using or something. It's because people saw me as a person who was doing the job they were hired to do, instead of being some realtor with commission breath, just trying to convert them as a lead. People know when you're just trying to convert them as a lead. People can smell commission breath from a mile away. I don't know if you've heard that term. And when I started just focusing on doing my job and representing my client's best interest over my own, lo and behold, all of a sudden, people wanted to work with me because they realized that that's the same treatment they're going to get. And they went to probably 5 other open houses that day and had the similar experience of, oh, what are you looking for in a house? Instead of, let me tell you about this house. Let me tell you why you're going to love this house. So that's a part of the class, is discussing how to get people to sign in, how to get good feedback for your clients, how to manage an entire event. That's something that's not taught in the business. We're always teaching how to get people there, but then, like, what do you do at that point, right?
Perfect.
I've always told people, if you don't know how to convert, if you don't know how to have conversations, you'll have a better time taking your friends to lunch and asking them for referrals. You'll spend
Absolutely.
less money. You'll spend less money, you'll sweat less, and you'll have a higher conversion rate. So if you're going to do open houses, I highly recommend taking my class. In fact, I've got one coming up.
Absolutely.
So the 9th of September from 9:30 to 11 at my office here at Barrett Real Estate. That's where I sell real estate, is at Barrett Real Estate. So that's 2701 East Insight Way in Chandler. It's an hour and a half class. Sometimes it goes a little long, but to me, it's really important to take this class. I've had people tell me that the class changed their business.
Dustin, I want to give you a week open house, and I want you to perform an autopsy. Okay. We have a $500,000 East Valley home. Okay. The agent's going to use 3 signs, post once on social media in the morning of the event, does no neighborhood outreach, arrives hot and tired 10 minutes before the opening, and has no visitor follow-up plan. Can you diagnose those failures?
So what you're saying is we have a typical open house. Okay, so that was a lot to take on. But obviously the first thing, sign placement, if you're going to put out 3 signs, if you're going to put out bare minimum effort, then I would say expect bare minimum results.
Exactly.
It's 3 signs, unless your house is facing a major intersection and those are 3 feather flags or something, just don't expect many people to come through. Okay, so let's go through these one step at a time. So the sign issue, obviously, you need to up your game on that. What was the next part of it? The
posting once on social
one
media
time in the morning. Yeah. So it's good to post on social media before. Now, posting a selfie video in front of the open house is good. It's a really good thing to do for follow-up too. If you post a quick video in front of the house saying, hey, I just want to thank you for showing up to my open house, you send that out afterwards to each person who came through. By the way, this is my number. Save it under World's Greatest Realtor. That's what I like to tell people, just because it gets a laugh, But that's a good multi-purpose video. You can shoot 2 videos and use one before and one after. A great way to post for open houses beforehand, if the open house happens to be in a well-known subdivision, let's say Val Vista Lakes, let's say Augusta Ranch, Morrison Ranch, all those neighborhoods have these community groups put together. It's really good to go in those community groups and advertise your open house in there. We did that once on an open house in Agritopia. Not that I lived in Agritopia, but they let me join the group and promote the open house. And we ended up having like 60 visitors come through that open house, mostly from that group, because some of those groups are really, really very busy, and some of those areas are really high demand. Like Agritopia is a good example, a very high demand area. Now, you mentioned a $500K price point. Anymore, that's about median. That's a little higher than median. So that's a great price point to be promoting. One thing people should also do with their online promotion is get their lender involved on a property like that and get a payment scenarios flyer put together. Just have like a VA, FHA, and conventional, show the down payments, show the interest rates, show what the final payment would be. advertise that, because a lot of people, just like buying cars, they don't look at the top price, they look at the monthly payment. A lot of people shop that way. And so as far as the online advertising, there's a lot of ways you can do that. Next thing you said was rolling in 5 minutes before.
All
I'll
hot
be
and
honest,
sweaty.
I do that sometimes still, not hot and sweaty because I don't touch my signs, but I still have a tendency. But I roll in just before because my process now is so simple. I used to set up tables and have flyers and all this display stuff, and now I set up a QR code for a digital flyer and a couple of clipboards with sign-in sheet information. It's pretty simple, but obviously, if you got a setup, show up and get that set up, and give yourself time to cool down, give yourself time to clean up before your first person walks in. This is a job interview. Every single person who walks through this is a job interview. First, you're trying to get them to buy that house, but then if not, you're trying to make a good impression. Next factor was,
Not having a follow-up method.
yeah, no follow-up method. Honestly, follow-up's important. And the reason that I love my class so much is because I teach a way to collect people's information where you're also able to take notes. The typical real estate agent, when they hold an open house, they have a single sheet of paper sitting on a table. It's the sign-in sheet, and it's like name, phone number, email address, and it might ask you a few questions. Are you looking to buy, sell, that kind of stuff. But there's no place to take any notes. Follow-up should be a lot more personal. Okay, so with my sign-in process, I hand someone a clipboard. The top 3/4 of the clipboard is a feedback section where it asks, like, what do you think of the curb appeal? What do you think of condition? What do you think of the amenities? These kinds of things. And it lets them rate it. It lets them to list their favorite thing about the open house, their least favorite thing, and a few other questions about that open house. And I always ask people when they come in, I say, would you mind doing me a favor and help me to give my client, the seller, some really good feedback on this property? Because it's important that they know what people really think. So if you really like the house, I'd love to hear about it. If you hate the house, I want to hear about that also. Just be blunt and honest. And then the last thing I always say is, and if there's a good reason for you and I to stay in touch after today, there's a section at the bottom where I can get your contact information. I don't require them to fill out contact information the second they walk in, because that puts people's walls up. That puts their guard up. It makes them not want to talk to you. Sometimes people will even leave. They're like, I don't want to give you my information. You're a stranger. And I'm like, well, I don't want to have strangers going through this house. And I've got to protect this property. So
It
I talk
ultimately
about
is a
that.
sales call, but they don't see it as a sales call. They see it as a, hey, we're going out to look at houses. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. You got to turn that sales filter off.
Yeah. So I let people tour the property. I tell them about the property. I tell them about it with excitement and enthusiasm. You're going to love this house because it's a split floor plan, because of this. It's got a beautiful sparkling pool. I go through and I get them excited about the property, and I tell them, go ahead and take a tour. You don't need me following you around, pointing out closets and pantries. You know what they are. There's nothing that I need to follow you around for. So just enjoy your tour. And when you're done, I'll be hanging out here in either the kitchen, or if I have a table. I always try and set myself up so I can see people when they're walking up, to where I'm not sitting down when they walk in. I'm standing, I'm just trying to be professional in that way. And so I let them have their freedom, let them have their tour, and let their walls come down naturally. They're more willing to talk with me if I don't force them to sign in and force them to do certain things up front. So when they come back to me, they hand me the clipboard. I always ask them, can you see yourself living here? You ready to make an offer? I just sort of break the ice. But as they hand me the clipboard, I take that piece of paper and I flip it over, because on the back, I have a section to take notes about their specific situation. See, that single sign-in sheet sitting on a table doesn't give the realtor there any context. They're sitting there trying to remember, was this person the person who was coming from Minneapolis, or was it that person? So there's following up with generic, pre-templated drip emails. And personally, I hate drip emails with a passion. You can always tell when it's a drip email. You want to connect with somebody, you start doing that by being personal, not by being a drip email. I think drip's just a gross word. Nobody wants to be dripped on. Michael, do you want to be dripped on?
No, sir.
I don't want to be dripped on either. It sounds disgusting. And so I flip it over and I just start asking questions. And on that section of my sheet, I have a place to identify their disc profile. I have a section to circle identifying characteristics like charismatic, funny, smart, diligent, things like that. Because as I'm talking to them and getting to know them, if I can circle a couple of those words that describe them, and then I follow up later with an email or a handwritten note or something, and I say, it was great to meet you. You're very charming and charismatic, and it was great to get to know you. And I'm excited to help your sister Linda move here from Minneapolis. Versus the follow up of another agent, which is, here's a bunch of listings you didn't ask for. What are you looking for? Like, you already talked about those things, yet you're following up with generic drip emails, and so you lose the connection, right? So I teach people not how to convert, I teach people how to connect. Because to me, connect is greater than tech, right? You can have all the apps you want, you can have all the digital this and that. But if you have just a simple way to provide value to your seller with feedback and also collect data from people that's meaningful that you can turn around and make sure they know you were listening, your conversion rates between that and trying to sell the property you're holding. I mean, all those things combined make for a much better experience for the client. It also makes potential sellers when they're coming to, you never know who people are until they tell you, right? Treat everybody like they're there to buy that house. But when they see that you're going to bat for your client, asking for honest feedback, and you're not trying to spam them and you're being a good listener, that makes people a lot more likely to want to work with you.
Yeah.
And trust you.
You never know, that next guest coming in could be an investor looking to buy 15, 20 houses.
Yep. And I've
And
met
you
many
just
of
did the
them.
right thing and get them
Yeah.
excited. So
Absolutely.
So your work sits in the middle of a large real estate network. Okay. Who is great for your company, Open House Helpers? Are you looking for title, lending, inspectors, photographers? What really is someone that could help you grow your business?
Perfect question. So the thing that I'm really trying to focus on right now, the messaging I'm trying to put out right now is, the market's really tough. It's probably tough for you as a travel guy as well. I see how hard you work and I respect your hustle so much. I really do. You treat this like a business, and I really admire watching you work and how much effort you put into it. But still, when the economy sucks, it sucks for everyone. It sucks for me. It sucks for you. We're having to work 10 times as hard, And in order to be successful in sales, you have to have grit. You have to have, a game plan and all these things that we're talking about. The thing I'm trying to push right now is, a lot of real estate agents right now are struggling on how to generate leads. I don't care how high tech we get. I don't care how many stupid pictures AI can make for you. Posting those AI generated images all over Facebook and using technology is only going to push you so far. We're still in a people business, and I'm a firm believer that you can build an entire business model off of this one thing of open houses. I've seen it happen. I did it myself.
Well, let's finish up with this quick question here. What Arizona small business deserves more attention right now, and why?
What Arizona small business? Oh, geez, Michael, you caught me off guard with that one.
Is there anyone out there kicking butt that really just deserves that shout out?
Geez, I've got a list, man. I've got a list of people I want to give shout outs to, if that's okay.
Let's hit them up.
I am a small business advocate, and I'm taking that to the next level. With my real estate business, I'm actually in the process of having singular focus on my sphere of influence. See, over the years of building this open house based real estate business, I'm at a point now where I've built up my sphere to a point where I can rely way more on my sphere of influence. And so I'm trying to connect everybody in that sphere with my vendor team and get more small businesses to offer more things to my it's like I'm creating these relationships all over. A few of my favorite small businesses that I've been really getting a lot of love from lately. I love the people. Let's start off with Decal Monkey and Gilbert. I love them. I've worked with them several times. They make custom shirts. They make custom vinyl stickers. They do a lot of print services, things like that. I want to give them a lot of love. Lately, I've met a lot of service people who have really impressed me. Copper State Garage Pros has been a great partner, as well as Southwest Hauling and Junk Removal. Chris over there, he's been a really good hard worker. And I've also been really doing a lot with Rodeo Heating and Cooling. I love them. These are all vendors who have been coming through and just like really coming through for me lately. I mean, I've got a long list of these people. I've got a lot of great lenders I work with, but I'm really trying to bring attention and more love to local businesses, like places like Lenny's Burgers in Mesa or Coffee Rush in Gilbert. I'm trying to get people away from the corporate everything. I feel like once a company goes on the New York Stock Exchange, I feel like they just lose their soul and they take so much away from the community more than they give,
These
But
are
I
the
just got-
businesses that are lifeblood of our communities. And that's
Absolutely.
why the Arizona Posse Radio Show is here.
Yeah, my friend Leslie Rathman, she owns Leslie's Creative Cakes in Mesa. I try and send her business every chance because she makes the coolest cakes and she puts her heart and soul into everything she does. I mean, you're not going to get that same experience with these corporate businesses. I can go on and on and on about that. I'm very proud of what you're doing. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I love the way you operate.
And for any Arizona real estate agent listening today, what's the best step to get in touch with you?
Best way would be probably just our website, openhousehelpers.com. That's the best way. Or you can just shoot me an email. You can email me at support@openhousehelpers.com. Honestly, I'm happy to help agents with questions, with showing them what my forms look like. But my biggest thing is like, come to the class. come to the class, get to know me face to face, hear what I have to say. Hopefully I can, help you improve your business and build a more predictable and profitable business through simplicity and intensity. That's to me the name of the game, is to simplify and intensify, And so that's really the best way to.
Absolutely. Dustin, I want to make sure that people remember the right thing. Open House Helpers is not simply saving an agent from carrying signs. You're helping agents arrive ready to meet buyers, represent the seller, and run a better event.
Exactly. We don't just place signs. Exactly. I look at us as a partner, because again, we're focusing on sign placement, but also education, online presence, and we're getting ready to add so many more services. There'll be a point where we'll have anything you could ever possibly need for an open house.
Awesome. You'll find Dustin Holindrake and Open House Helpers at openhousehelpers.com and on social media at Open House Helpers. Dustin, thank you so much for joining the posse.
Thank you again. And like I said again, man, I'm super stoked to watch you grow this thing, because this is fantastic. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. I'm Michael Salazar, Michael the Travel Guy. Connect, cultivate, and convert.